We all love Susie, don't we? She helps us so much when we're learning pattern making and all of that. But what if you don't have a Susie? I'm here to share with you some other things that you can use if you don't have a half-scale dress form. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Trisha Camacho. I'm the owner of Creative Costume Academy, where I'm here because it is my mission to share with you that pattern making does not have to be hard. You can do it, and I'm here to share with you some simple tricks along the way so you can start using it immediately. Today for Tricky Thursday, we're going to be talking about what can you use in place of a half-scale dress form if you don't have your own little Susie. If you're not sure why I feel like it's a great idea to start with half-scale patterns and use a half-scale dress form when you're first starting out learning pattern making, go and visit our video from last week where I shared all about it and why I love half-scale dress forms. I introduced you in that video to Miss Susie here. She's been my pal in teaching pattern making as long as I've been teaching, and she's a great resource. And of course, once people start learning and using their little half-scale patterns, they always want to see what it looks like on a Susie of their own. But I do not want the fact that if you do not have your own little Susie, for that to hold you back, because there's a lot of other options for using the half-scale patterns and still being able to see what it looks like kind of on a body. So let's get into it. First of all, this is your basic bodice pattern that I usually start with when I'm starting teaching pattern making for the first time. So you have your front with your front bust dart, and you have your back with your back dart here. So Susie wanted to wear her fancy outfit to start off this video, but let's get her into her basic bodice so you can see what we're talking about. So now we can see Susie is in her basic bodice, and this is the pattern that I usually start off with when I start teaching pattern making. It's a very basic shape. It doesn't have any interesting armhole lines or a creative neckline. It just fits the body nicely. It has a single dart under the bust. If we turn it to the side, we can see it's fitting her pretty closely, and then we have that single dart in the back. This is what we start with so that I can teach you the basics of pattern making, and you can move this dart around and you can start adding style lines and eventually get into that bustier style you saw Susie wearing at the beginning of the video. A lot of times when we start getting into showing you how to use this basic bodice, I have students feel like they can't move further because they don't have a Susie of their own. But if you're just starting out, you're still not sure if this thing is for you, this pattern making thing, I want to give you some other options so that you can have some other options and you don't have to go ahead and invest in your own little Susie just yet, even though she is adorable, isn't she? The first option that I want to share with you is my favorite because I kind of made it up, but also I love it because pretty much everyone has a hand towel at their home. And if not, they're really inexpensive. You can probably find them at the dollar store, Walmart, Target, any place like that. So I want to show you how I can take this regular old hand towel and turn it into a little dress form that you can use for your learning of your half-scale patterns. So here's that hand towel. I just took it and folded it in half like a hamburger. So we've got a shorter, we don't want a long, thin towel. We want a shorter, more square towel. And depending on how long your hand towel is to start, would depend how many folds that you would fold down. But if you fold down about 2 or 3 inches and then fold down again, what this does is create like a lip, so it can give you the effect of the bust area. And then you flip it over so your fold is on the back side of the table, and then you fold it into thirds. So you fold 1/3 in here and then 1/3 in this way. You can even take some safety pins and pin it together so it doesn't come apart on you, and use this as your little dress form. So you can see, here's what it looks like when you have your basic bodice on. We can see even to the side. For a hand towel, she does pretty good, but by creating that lip by folding down, you can still see where the bust would be, and it kind of fills it out as if it was a regular dress form. And then here is the back. So this is a great little stand-in, and it keeps you working on those half-scale patterns. Another option that is really handy, if you have an iron tailoring ham, they call this. This has caused many funny conversations in my sewing room over the years, but I digress. So this common tailor ham, if you don't have one of these for your ironing, I highly suggest that you do get one of these. These are very handy and helpful when you're sewing and pressing things over curves. But I have had a couple students use these as their little half scale form stand-in, and it works really well. So another thing that's helpful is to have a little jar, or they do make holders for these. If you have one of those, you're super fancy. You can set it here like this. So here you can see I've used this common mason jar that you can also get at most places, and just put the smaller part here in the top of the mason jar. Here you can see I've got the basic bodice pinned onto my little tailoring ham, and it does give me a good idea of what this pattern is going to look like. Another option that I've seen and heard of is, do you remember those my size Barbies from the 1990s? They are actually a perfect half size 8, so almost exactly the same size as Miss Susie. So if you've got one of those lying around, or you happen to find one at a garage sale or yard sale, snatch her up, take her home, and dress her up. Another one that I've seen is just your common water bottle. This option works out all right, but it does kind of distort the shape of the pattern, and it's a little harder to see what it's going to look like just because it's a cylinder and doesn't fill out the bust area as nicely. But I think you can get the idea. Get creative. I've seen someone take egg cartons and pin those to their tailor's ham or to their little towel and create more of a bust. So it's really fun. The main idea is use what you have around the house, and don't let not having a little Susie stop you from learning pattern making and trying out these exercises with these half scale patterns. So there's two reasons that I wanted to share these other options of dress forms with you. One, it's because I want you to know that you can always use your resources that you already have. You don't have to dump a bunch of money and invest in a bunch of different things to start learning pattern making. And two, I don't want the fact that you don't have your own little Susie to hold you back from learning pattern making. I'm all about sharing this knowledge with you, and I want you to start learning as soon as possible so you can start working on your superpower. If you have enjoyed this video, please make sure to do all the things, the like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We do drop a new video every Thursday, or we have a monthly live event that we do with Charlotta of Charlotta Pattern Cutting School. So check those out for sure. And if you are curious about pattern making, if you want to learn how to do a fitting, how to start making clothes that fit you perfectly, we have a very special opportunity coming up really soon. We only do this a couple of times a year, and that is our Fitabulous Fit 5-day free fitting boot camp. That will be coming up very soon, and we would love for you to join. We always have tons of fun, learn a lot about fitting, and you'll get to put your little Susie into action, whether it's any of the versions that I shared with you in this video. To find out more about that, please check out the sign up below. It's completely free, 5 days of learning about fitting, learning about pattern making, and I promise it's way easier than you think. Just to be clear, we will be using our half scale patterns and little dress form or dress form stand-ins for Fitabulous Fit Bootcamp, but don't you worry, everything that I share in that free bootcamp will be so that you can learn how to fit garments on a real size, full-size person. It's just what we use for education so that we all can learn a lot easier, and there's a lot more information about that as well. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's Tricky Thursday. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.